Local protesters accuse Elon Musk and the Trump administration of dismantling the federal government and say it's not a good thing.
Dozens voiced their concerns outside Representative Darin LaHood's Rockford office. WIFR's Nathaniel Langley talks with those wanting their congressman to take a stand against President Trump.
This is what democracy looks like.
Protesters say they're answering a call to action.
I saw the Indivisible Facebook protest and I needed to go.
Assembling against what some claim is a coup against the federal government, led by Elon Musk and enabled by President Donald Trump.
I'm severely disabled and I've already been discriminated against once for being disabled. I don't want that to become illegal.
The people voted for major government reform.
Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go!
Protests like these have popped up across the country in recent weeks. Here in Rockford, the focus is on U.S. Representative Darin LaHood.
LaHood's no good! LaHood's no good!
What we need him to do is stand up against this lawlessness, stand up for the rule of law, stand up for the Constitution.
He doesn't necessarily represent the full constituency. Half of the district needs to be heard as well.
Many protesters point to Elon Musk as the main problem, who President Trump credits for finding billions of wasteful dollars in the federal government.
And it's amazing, actually, what they've exposed.
Even as law enforcement directs protesters to leave the office's private parking lot, some declare they'll be back.
We can't let this country go the way of, so many other lawless countries.
In Rockford, Nathaniel Langley, WIFR News.
WIFR reached out to LaHood for comment. His office has not yet responded.
Local Indivisible groups say they'll protest against the congressman again.